Hi, it's Constant Angler. Going to talk about bulbtailed, pintailed, trickworms and stickbaits today. I thought I'd group all these together. Of course, other stickbaits are Senkos, but they're such a large group all in their own. We did a separate video for that. If you'd like to check that out, I'll leave a link. So, what have I got in front of us? Well, you see I've got a variety of colours and a variety of different baits. If we're talking bulbtails, if you look at this one here, it's got a slender body with a narrower section just before the tail and then a bulbous tail, and that gives it great action in the water. Sometimes they can be a sort of trick worm like this, where it's a worm section with a very thin long section and a bulbtail. Sometimes these bulbtails float, sometimes they don't. We can see some more here, just sort of in between the two I've just showed you, the slender body, tapering body and a bulbtail. And then we come to our pintails. So what are we talking about pintails? It's pretty obvious really, isn't it? If I show you this bait here, this one happens to have lots of ribs and a little pintail on the end, and these little pintails shake in the current, or by you twitching them, they drive the wrasse mad. They're one of my favourite baits to use, pintails. Got a selection of them here. I'll show you this one as well. You can see the little pintail on the end there. It just shakes around and it drives the fish crazy. Then we get round to our stick bait. So classic stick bait there, the Slayer, and you can still see they've got a fairly slim, slender tail. They're a bit like a sort of chippy shape, I suppose, and with a thin tapering tail. But you can see that tail there, even though it's thicker than some of the others, it still vibrates around a lot. And as you can see, you can get these lures in all sorts of different colours, and you know I love colours. So what retrieves we're going to do with these? Well, you can shake these lures in place a lot more, so you don't have to be so active with them. You're not bouncing them along the bottom more. It's more of a shake, shake, shake rather than a lift, lift, drop. You can still do that. If you can get them, if you know a wrasse is held up in a particular area around a particular rock and you can put it in front of it and it's not particularly having it, if you shake these lures in place in front of it, it can really annoy them into taking the bait. And this is one of the key features of these baits. I really discovered how to use these baits over the winters when I've been wrasse fishing. And if you look at this bait in particular, this is a wave worm, trickworm, in a sort of smoke colour. And this little bulbous tail stands up and shakes around. And I think the colour of this one in particular, the wrasse seem to love. And I found it was invaluable one particular winter at pulling wrasse out around particular features that I knew. So you've got your skinny sort of shaking worms here. This is a shaking squirrel worm, and same again, bulbous tail that floats, wriggles around, gets the fish going. So retrieves, yeah, I like to shake them in place or hop them and shake them as I'm searching with them. You can do other methods, but that seems to be the best for me. Colours, well, all the usual colours. We've got our pinks, we've got our watermelons, our green pumpkins, our shad colours, our sort of AU colours. You know, some with a bit of sparkle in them, like this with a gold sparkling, shrimpy colours, all the usual colours. And why not go for some more vivid colours? This is why I brought these particular ones in orange and red, because they're difficult to source. The Slayers in the same colours. These aren't Slayers. I'll go through these in a minute. Floating, I like floating worms for trick worms or any worm, bulbous tail worm like that. And floating lure floats even better in my from my point of view. If it doesn't, still usable, still works. Some of the best ones I've got don't actually float, but they're my favourite lures. So talking about favourite lures, let's go through some then. Start with that one there. We have an AGM 5-inch finesse worm. So there you go, you're talking finesse techniques here, a bit more subtlety, although you're shaking it in their face. Next we have the AGM finesse worm in a pink colour. Next to that, I showed you already, we have the wave worm. Don't actually call it anything other than wave worm, but it's infused with Melopo, these baits, and if you can find baits with Melopo in, they're particularly good. I'm not sure what Melopo is, but it works. So moving round, we have Rains Floating trickworm. Unfortunately, it's all rubbed off here. I've had these so long, I use them for so long. And then we're coming to our Z-Man baits. So we've got a finesse worms in copper chartreuse there. Then we have an A-fish lure, which is off AliExpress. Used these lures before, very good lures. Love these. Next we come to some big bite baits here. So these two here, these are new. I haven't used these yet, but I just know they're going to work. They're a nice little size, beautiful pintail, and love the colours. Got these off AGM. They are the 3.5 inch limit maker. That's in easy money. And that, which will make you laugh, is a chick magnet 3 inch limit maker, 3.5 inch limit maker. You don't have to buy expensive. I don't know if Snowbee are making lures anymore, but this is one of their stinger range. They never seem to label them with the actual. Oh, this is stinger waxworm in 11 centimeters. It's a sort of shrimp colour, and this is. I love this lure. Don't use it enough, to be honest. I keep forgetting I got it in my bag, which is a pain. And then we're probably getting around to what are my favourite wrasse baits. If any of you been following me for a while, saw my wrasse fishing, you can't fail to notice me using these sort of baits. They're a copy of I think it's a Sexy Impact, could be wrong there, but that's what they are, by Kitech or Rains, one or the other. They all do sort of variations on this. This one here happens to be by a company called Akai, yummy, and so it's off AliExpress or eBay, and I just couldn't get the colour in the other lure, which is exactly the same. They're all generic, made in the same factory. Max Catch. Now these are my absolute favourites, either in the black colour here or the green pumpkin. They just catch fish. If I had to put my money on one bait to catch me a wrasse, that would be it, no question. Like, there's just some baits, there's something about them. All of these baits catch fish, or will catch fish, but that is my absolute banker bait. As you can see, you can get it in a shad colour too, which is another cracking lure. There's the shad one for you. I'll put links to some of these baits if I can find them. Some have been discontinued, but a lot are still available. Then we get around to excuse the blossom being blown everywhere, get around to the slayers, the Megabass slayers. So if I can find the buckets. The one in the middle there is a Pro Blue. The others I've lost the packets for, but you can find them. This is sort of a shrimp colour there, the classic AU colour there. This is some sort of blue and white colour. Some of them, I think that one glows. It was an experiment I was doing. These lures are another classic wrasse bait. The only problem with these is they're brilliant for bass as well, by the way. They have a rattle in them, and plus they're expensive to buy. And the wrasse like these rattles so much, which is probably what makes them such a good lure. They tend to bite them out or bite the bait off. But another lure, if I'm really stuffed and I'm just not catching it, and I know there's some fish there, that's one of those lures I'll pull out of the packet and chuck out. And if they're not having that on the day, they're just not having it, and time to move on. But yeah, they're a profile bait, if you see what I mean. They're flat there, and they taper to a point here with ribs on and sectioned. Cracking baits, lovely for bouncing in the type of bass as well, but wrasse do adore them. Having limits to the colours with the slayers, I found another lure on good old AliExpress. You can find them on eBay too, I think, and these are made by Hunt House, and they are called the Hunt House Shadow, and they are a copy, but you know, sometimes cost is a thing. And these, you can see they're the same profile bait, but they're in some weird nicer colours, some reds and some oranges. What I tend to do with slayers is take the rattles out, and if you've seen my videos, put a little jewellery bead on here in between the hook and the weight, and maybe another bead. This wasn't my idea. I knew how much I liked a rattle in a lure, and was talking with one of the guys on Lure Fishing for Wrasse. Look it up, it's a great Facebook group run by Mike Weathersby. A chap called Steve Butler down in Cornwall gave me this little tip. I've shared it already, so I hope he doesn't mind. And you put a jewellery bead on there, and it's got a little shot or something in these jewellery beads. They look like little jewellery bells kind of thing. You'll find them. I'll put a link in the description, and that gives you the rattle, but it gives you the rattle up this end as well, so it's even better because it's nearer your hook point, whereas down here, this is why they nip the tails off the wrasse. With bass it's no problem at all. It's probably better in the tail in some ways because you're bouncing it down the tide, and this jewelry bee won't be getting stuck in mud or whatever. But great lures, we'll give them a try and see what happens. Moving round to the left here, we have the Z-Man, our Z-Man lure. This is one of the first lures they brought out. This is a Fatty Z in the real deal colour, which is one of the newer-ish colours. I do like Z-Man lures. There are problems with them slipping down the hook and that, but it's easily remedied. Beautiful belly slot on that lure, and they float. So a similar lure to the next lure, but a little bit fatter, as the name said. This one here, the Fatty Z, are lures made by Carl at Rooney's Fishing Supplies, and you'll see I did an individual video on that because he was kind enough to send me a couple packs of a mixed selection of these lures to try when we get it back out of the bag. They float as well. They're very similar to the Fatty, but in some respects I prefer them. They're a slimmer profile, so they get in the mouth fat a little bit easier than a Fatty. But the Fatty is a proven lure for me with wrasse fishing. It is one of those lures I got first and when I started winter fishing for wrasse, and I wanted a floating bait that would stand up and wiggle in the face. So yeah, we got several of these lures here from Rooney's Fishing Supplies. Young Carl, thank you. And you can see these does them in various colours. There's a laminate pink there, an AU, a traditional pink, and a more shocking pink colour. And last but not least, there are a couple of my favourite lures here. These are the big bite baits, shaking squirrels, I think we call them, or squirrel tail worm. They're 4.5 inches long. I haven't got a packet for them. Yeah, these are great finesse lures. Difficult days when you're not getting anything, especially when it's cold, fish don't want to move a lot, they work very well. They do pick up smaller wrasse as well, but believe me, in the middle of winter when your hands are freezing, you've caught nothing. You're quite happy to catch the small ones as well. They're still beautiful things, and these shaking squirrels are particularly good at catching the smaller ones, but we'll also catch the bigger ones. So we've got a good selection there of colours, of sizes. They're all generally between sort of, I suppose, 3.5 and 5 inches long. All good wrasse lures. Don't be fixated on one type or another. You can see I'm not. I'm a bit of a lure tart. I know I've got so many. Experiment with your colours, with your types of lures. Get a few pintails, get a few trickworms, get a few bulbtails, and get a few sticks, slayer type lures. And you know, even get some with some ribs on, which you can stuff some scent in, and experiment and see how you go. Let me know how you get on. That'll do for now. Thanks for watching. As always, please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. The Constant Angler. Cheers.